Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for logging on. I'm Marquise Griffin, Director of Programming for the Graduate Student Association within the Office of Graduate Student Life here at Boston College. On behalf of the GSA, we are truly excited to partner with Boston Art and Music Soul Fest, better known as BAM Fest, to present an intimate and interactive virtual concert series called Acoustic Living Room. For those who are not familiar with BAM Fest, they are a nonprofit organization that breaks down racial and social barriers to arts, music, and culture for artists and communities of color across Greater Boston. More importantly, they are a cultural movement led by Black and Brown creative entrepreneurs, cultural makers, and community thought leaders who are on the front lines of racial equity, spatial justice, and economic empowerment. We created this series in partnership with BAMFest Inc. to bring an intersectional social justice lens through activism that we believe can help BC students make meaning of their collegiate experiences and personal connections, to help students gain agency in their academic, professional, and social lives through local arts and cultural experiences, and to center BIPOC voices, tell BIPOC stories by BIPOC artists. As a brief disclaimer, we want to make sure that you are aware that this is a safe space for artistic expression. There may be some explicit language during the performance. We are excited to have both a performance and live conversation with our first local artist, Jazzmyn Red. She is a passionate artist from Massachusetts who blends her lyricism, tact, sharp bars, soulful singing, and songwriting talents that creates a unique sound. It is through her genre-blending sound and her penchant for bold storytelling based on her own experiences about relationships, our communities, and social justice issues that her musical message truly resonates with her fans. Her new EP, entitled Revolution, was released on August 28, 2020, marking the 55th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. The lead track, We Gon' Make It, was created as the anthem for Black Ballot Power, a national nonpartisan campaign to increase voter turnout in the key battleground states in the recent 2020 election. Revolution has earned Jazzmyn 3 Boston Music Award 2020 nominations and has been featured in the Boston Globe, the Boston Herald, the Worcester Telegram, and on iHeartRadio and Boston NPR's website. Without further ado, please welcome Jazzmyn Red.
Will not be televised. It will not be broadcasted live. You will not be able to sit back and relax between commercials. No, my friend, the revolution will not be televised. They don't want you to see waves of black, white, brown, pale, dark faces, fists raised high, voices screaming battle cries, people fighting for their lives. No, my brother, the revolution will not be televised. It will not be anticipated like a Jordan release. It will not matter what is on your feet. It will not matter what is on your feet. It will not matter what is on your feet. It'll matter what is in your heart. And if you're willing to die on your knees. The revolution will not be televised. There will be no heavily made up reporters spewing lies. There will be no airplay because the revolution will be live. Thank y'all for joining me tonight. I am streaming live right now from the Sound Lab in Brockton, Mass. I got DJ Mario Drip on the ones and twos. I got Massive Entertainment streaming live for you, and we are gonna take a run through my album Revolution, which is right now available on all streaming platforms. I appreciate y'all for being here with me tonight and inviting me to speak with y'all. Congratulations, class of 2021. Let's go. educate a woman and you educate a nation. Compassion and accountability, we misplace them. I can't even trace them to the place that we erase them. Rape is in the eye of the oppressor, deface them. How can you defile a child and fear no consequence? How can you abuse a woman and condemn violence? A product of entitlement, the sum of our corruption, a plague on the environment where little black girls ain't even thought of as human. When a woman could give life and the body's considered ruined. Black hair ain't pride, bodies are not worthy. When I'm only valued after 10 bands of surgery, where history of perjury has misled our people, and the guise of white lies has tried to mask the evil. But art is lethal, they figured that out too. Artists write prescriptions for them drugs that you use. Pop this, sip that. That life you choose, freedom ain't free if they selling you to you. Plastic and packaged, ready to distribute. The war on drugs, but it's you us who contributes. Built for survival, more wars than a rifle. Built for survival, shooter. Ain't nothing in this world stronger than a mother's love. And I ain't had no babies yet, but I don't give a. These are my kids you killing, my children missing, my sons and daughters getting stuck on them syringes, caught up in the system, just another victim. He put his hands up and you still killed him. But nah, you ain't a villain, just doing your job. But if it was a civilian, then they'd be behind bars. Come on, Sarge, you above the law, choosing who lives or dies. Who made you God? You've been destroying us. I'm just trying to even the odds up. Remember stories, how you left my ancestors scarred up, feathered and tarred up, but you want us to forget. MAGA had Klansmen, want a noose around my neck. I pose a threat, cause I'm young, black, and seen. I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. We survived and thrived in the dirt you threw us in, but we grew again from blood, sweat, and tears we rooted in. I'm your child, America. You can't deny me. Justice been blind. It's about time she sees how they touched and traumatized Lady Liberty. You can gentrify the hood, you'll never gentrify me. I'm the product of marches, high fists, and blood spill. Descendant of a revolution you could never kill. Built for survival, the pen starts more wars than a rifle. Built for survival, the pen starts more wars than a rifle. Built for survival. I shot him down, bullet to his head, blood on the flag, no chance to regret now. Who's next? Built for survival, the pen starts more. I shot him down, blood on my hands, washing the rivers of almighty Jordan now. Who's next? Built for survival, one hand to God, one hand on the Bible. One hand on the Bible.
I still advocate revolutionary
starts more
changes
wars
in
than
the
a
structure
rifle.
and in the principles that govern the United States. I advocate self-determination
We built
for
for
my people
survival.
and for all oppressed people inside the United States. I advocate
We built for
an end to
survival.
capitalist exploitation, the
The pen
abolition
starts
of
more wars
racist
than a
policies,
rifle.
the eradication of sexism, and the elimination of political repression. If that is a crime, then I am totally guilty.
Shooter built for survival. The pen starts more wars than a rifle. Built for survival. The pen starts more wars than a rifle. We built for survival. The pen starts more wars than a rifle. Shooter. Hey. Stay true.
Hanging from the tree, blood at the root,
Blood at the root, blood on the leaves. Stay true.
hanging
From those trees,
blood at the root,
blood at the root.
blood on the leaves.
What you expect from me, huh? Ha, you been neglecting me, huh? Every single book, every time I look, everybody shook at the black glove fisted one. I checked out the text that you forced to be read, and every single page said we ain't. But that ain't the truth, that's what they tell you, so they won't grow up and explode on you. Thoughts is power, and if you thought you was power, then imagine how the rich be devoured. It's a pyramid, baby, they at the top, but we built them things just in case you forgot. These streets paved on the backs of slaves, wealth you made on my ancestors' graves. Rich in money, but you sold depraved, and one day you gon' lay at the roots that you made, From those trees, blood at the root, blood on the leaves, strange fruit, hanging from those trees, blood at the root. Imagine for a second. In your grade school lessons, you was taught Malcolm, Martin, Huey, Walker, Garvey, Asada, and internalized oppression. Would you love yourself? Would you hate your reflection if you saw men and women with your same complexion, surviving, thriving in your textbook, flexing? Politics, science, philosophy, finance. Most of my heroes wanted on the FBI's list. Black messiahs, black providers, black institutions getting met with fire. I get it. You scared, unprepared. What you gonna do if the hate you grew when these seeds of these streets goes to bleed right through? Strange fruit from those trees, blood at the roots, and blood on the leaves. Whew. I thank y'all so much for being here with me tonight. This album, Revolution, was really important to me. It actually came about on my second trip to Africa. I went to Tanzania to visit with Pete and Mama C, Charlotte Hill O'Neal of the Black Panther Party, who have grown to be mentors of mine. I met them at first when I took a study tour through my college. So I hope, y'all got to experience that, or you get to experience, traveling abroad and traveling to the places that you've always dreamed of, because in doing that, it set the stage for the fact that I learned that I could do anything, right? Despite the odds being against me, I could do whatever I wanted as long as I put my heart and my mind in the same place and I got to it. And I was really proud of both of those songs in particular because they gave me a moment to really highlight two women who are such an inspiration to me, Assata Shakur and Billie Holiday. Just for their tenacity and their will to fight for their people, no matter where they're at, no matter what the medium, using art, using their voice. And this next song we're gonna get into is called Monster. And it's another way that I pay tribute to the women who are nasty women, maybe. Y'all know what I mean. Let's go. Monsters don't live under your bed, they live inside your head. So once this beats, that's knocking on just what you messing with. A product to the hood and books, I got them shook cause there's no thing is halfway. Crooks, you better be exactly what you say, cause my dog's been trained to go and salivate. I salivate when my prey don't give me 5 feet. You better pray you don't never come across me. Crack your chest and gon' see what you made of. Do your heart bleed freedom or fear in your blood? Is your soul a coward? Are you lion-hearted? Don't be scared now. We just getting started, baby. Just maybe they made a mess when they made me. Unchained, untamed, she's a wild thing, and she can smell the bitch all up in your face. You created a monster. Come on. Now if I told you the whole truth, you would know what to do, cause the facts had to swallow 100 proof. I got stories on my skin that make men look like demons. I survived, blood under my nails, cause I refuse to let you drag me to hell. Bred with aggression, big heart with a temper, burn us to the ground, set it off if you tempt her. I got gunpowder mixed with my soul, and a particular problem for letting shit go. Unchained, untamed, she's a wild thing, and she could smell the bitch all up in your veins. You created a monster. Oh, you created a monster. Yeah. And if Archetype was here, I'd have him going in on the guitar solo for y'all. I almost made Drip grab an air guitar and do it himself. Get a Drip, get a Drip, get a Drip. This next song we're gonna get into is one that's very near and dear to my heart. And I had to make this one. Because it's important that we love each other. And it's important that we show up for each other. And it's important that we tell each other how much we appreciate each other and how much we love each other in this community and all communities. So, let's get it. You might hear a little something familiar in this one.
Love liberates. Yeah.
It's my
We all came from a woman.
You were God to begin with. Do you know what that means? Before you was ever a nigga, you was a king. Highly intelligent, powerful being. Realize everything ain't always what it seems. Before you was neglected, you were protected. Before you was rejected, you were protected. True to believe your skin ain't magic. Melanin worth millions, you're the only one that has it. You hold the world in your palms, constellations in your arms, stars in your eyes, a fire in your heart. You were love at your best. Nefertiti in the core, beauty in the flesh. The earth in human form, she gave birth to the cosmos. She'd endure the worst, the pain that would have stopped most. But as for me, I'm proud to be your sister. I swear to God, I lace these boots and go to war for you.
Love liberates.
That's just a little snippet of that one. Y'all gonna have to catch that one on the album. Now, this song right here that we about to get into, I gotta speak on it. Can I speak on it? I can speak on it. Let me speak on it. This song right here is called "We Gonna Make It," and I created this song with a near and dear friend of mine who unfortunately is no longer with us. His name is Loco Los. So every time I do the song, I gotta tell people put their L's up, you know? We created this song years ago, and very recently, last year, I was actually asked by Black Ballot Power out of Boston to help them create an anthem to get Black and brown communities out, registered to vote at the local level, the state level, the federal level, and so they use this as their anthem. This song has Los's voice on it, which is so important to me because it's full of encouragement and it's a spiritual booster. You know, it makes you feel good when you listen to it, makes you feel good when you hear it. So we're gonna get into the song called "We Gonna Make It." And this is gonna be my last song for the night. I'm screaming Black Lives Matter, brown pride. It's all love if it's you and I against the world. I swear I got us and I trust my ancestors like the way. We ain't come to play, baby, we came to slay. We are here to stay, time to make a change. And I'ma speak my truth, even if my voice shakes. We unmistakable, the leaders of the new school, creators of the future. There's nothing that we won't do to preserve the peace. Right to serve and teach, every open ear from the burbs to the streets. It's a new day, and they write new ways to love thy neighbor. Ain't that what your books say? We done with the hypocrisy, we over the bureaucracy. We busting down the Berlin walls. You gonna acknowledge we see the evil in your ways, the terror in your eyes when you hear the people say we gon' make it, we gon' make it. We gon' make it, we gon' make it. We gon' make it, we gon' make it. I'm tired of knocking on your door, now I'm busting down the locks. Put my feet to the street and my ballot in the box. You gon' stop us how? You can't stop us now. I see the power in the people when I rock a crowd. Say it loud. We brave and we proud. We fighting for tomorrow. We ain't never backing down. Tell your sister, your brother, your father, your mother, your uncles, your aunties, and your mama, sisters, cousins. We reclaiming our rights, taking control of life. We Ali in the ring, baby. We still in the fight. We got RBGs and AOCs, and now we got a new weapon. She called RED, and like Ayanna Presley, you don't wanna press me. If the truth is a crime, then come on, arrest me. Put my ankh on my neck, raise my L to the sky with my fist raised. How we on a mission to survive? We gon' make it, we gon' make it. 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 We miss you, Los. We gon' make it. We gon' make it, we gon' make it. Tired of the struggling, tired of the hustling. Pray to God you hear me. We in the fight for equality. I appreciate y'all so much. Thank you to the Sound Lab for letting me rock here. Thank you for Massive Media for doing they want to and getting me from here all the way to you. And shout out to my DJ Mario Drip on them ones and twos. I appreciate y'all. Congratulations, class of 2021. Go out there and change the world. Peace. I love y'all. Can't wait to talk to y'all in a few.
What an amazing, timely, and powerful performance by Jazzmyn Red. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. And with that said, I'm excited to move into our fireside chat in hopes that we can learn more about Jazzmyn's work. Welcome, Jazzmyn.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. You can hear me all right?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you so much for that performance. That was amazing. That was really beautiful. Very, very timely.
Thank y'all for inviting me, and thank you, Bams Fest, for inviting me. I appreciate it so much.
Very cool. Very cool. So, my first question for you, Jazzmyn, is how has your music changed from when you first started to now?
That is a great question. So I've actually, I think people evolve a lot, right? Like you are, well, you should be, right? Ever changing. You're always growing. Growth is a really important thing. So, early on, my style was a lot more. It was a lot more street, it was a lot more hood, it was a lot more aggressive. That was a lot of the topics, because that's where I was at that point in time in my life. And that's kind of what I was experiencing. I was young and I was emotional and I was angry at a lot of things. And that's how I used to channel my emotions. And then as I got older and I started to learn more, in particular, when I went to college, I'll be honest, I studied at UMass Boston and I was a Black History major, Africana Studies at first. And I ended up graduating from Bridgewater. But through my studies, I started to learn so much and I was like, this needs to be, like, I need to talk about this. Like, this is the stuff I didn't get all the time as a young person. And basically I took that and mixed it with, what I was going through as a young woman, like just in my life as a young woman in the world and navigating my space and finding who I am. And so it evolved and it changed. That aggression and that hood still come out here and there. It just comes out, in a different way. But that would honestly, now I can really stylize my music. Before, I had a really hard time getting instrumentals from people. So my first mixtape, I I couldn't afford instrumentals because I was broke. um, and so I started taking like industry instrumentals. So I would take the things that inspired me, and like one of the first ones was "You and I T Y" by Queen Latifah. I remixed that on my mixtape, and the topic, everybody like, was drawn to it, and it was something very personal to me. But in that moment, I realized like, okay, like I'm doing the right thing by taking pieces of me and putting it into the music, and taking what I've learned and what I know and putting it into the music, and it just took off from there. It just escalated from that.
Thank you for sharing that. That sounds amazing, and I just love that what you said about growing with your work. So that's really lovely. So my second question is, would you like to say more about some of the major social issues that you tackle in your music, and how did you choose them?
How did I do them? Yeah, for sure. So a lot of the major issues that I, really identify and tackle in my music is um, what goes on in like the community that I'm in, like what goes on in communities that are consistently, under-resourced and underrepresented. Racism is a huge topic that I tackle as well. Sexism and the marginalization of women, like really all of those things I think have had a huge part just in my life in particular and have affected me so much, as well as like self-healing and reflecting on self and growth like we were just talking about. But I think the biggest one for me has been racism because um, I'm biracial, multi-ethnic, but I identify as Black. And I grew to that space in being a minority for real in the school system I went to. I was like one of very few people of color in a predominantly white middle school and high school. And through that experience, it was just really difficult. Like race was constantly uh, present issue for me every day I went to school, every time I interacted with a faculty member, and it continues to be, even with my family at times. Being a biracial person, you got Black folk on one side, you got white folk on the other side, and not everybody sees eye to eye. And I was really taken in by my Black family. So that's where I identified. And just going through those issues and going through those experiences, I decided very early on through my parents who really pushed me, always to use my voice, that like I was going to say something, I was going to do something. Like you weren't just going to treat me like this and you weren't just going to do this and not hear anything about it. So it really just came from the things I've experienced and being that voice for the people who also experience those things too, and putting it into words and articulating it when somebody is going through something like that and they need to listen to a song about it that like makes them feel like she gets me or she heard me or she felt what I'm going through. Like just get to air it out in your car if you need to, or wherever. But yeah, that's really where that comes from.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. I love that. That is just so amazing, so authentic, and I think that's a good way to segue into my third question for you, which is a lot of artists separate their public persona from their personal identities, but it seems with your music, you bear your personal life for your listeners. So I'm wondering, have you found that to be challenging, or has that changed the way that you approach your music?
Absolutely. It's probably one of the hardest things that I think I do. Because when you make music that, isn't like, I can't even say that because I don't know because I've never, fully done it, but when I make music that is literally like pieces of myself that I'm putting into tracks, like I'm putting my stories and what's really happened to me and my real emotions and my real feelings and my real thoughts, it's scary because you never know how somebody's gonna take it, right? Like I could say, and especially with music, like when you write raps, you're using metaphors, right? So like you can say something that really identifies with how you feel, but somebody else could take it completely out of context and feel a different way about it. Um, so I think like, it's difficult, but it's necessary. And most difficult things are necessary, right? Like it's something that I never know how people are going to feel about me and what I have to say. And because it's so deeply personal, that when people do feel a way or do say stuff about what I have to say, it's also deeply personal. It's like, oh, like that hurt my soul, because there's a piece of my soul that I put out there. But it's also great because I feel like I'm doing what I was put here to do. Like I've come to the conclusion that I was given the ability to do what I do, and I was given the experiences that I've had so that I could put it into music and give it to another person who also needed it. So though it's difficult, I think it's necessary and needed, and I hope that my stories and my pieces of me help somebody else out there feel comforted and feel okay and feel held in that 3 minutes and 30 seconds that they're listening to Jazzmyn Red for sure.
That is so that's so powerful, and I appreciate especially the kind of effort that goes into being personal like that. Like you said, like putting out a piece of your soul that is so powerful, but also so needed because I think you really are. So the fourth question that I have for you is: you mentioned in your bio on your website that your father got his degree from the streets and your mother from university, and you picked up your interest in music from your father, then were trained professionally at Bristol Studios. How do you see yourself incorporating the streets and university into your music?
It's really easy because it's who I am. I've always kind of toggled this line of like I'm good in any space that I go to, right? But in the way that I was raised by a man who was, like, for lack of better terms, like from the hood, and those were his experiences, and I lived in those spaces with him, and I was taught by him and I learned from him. But I also lived and was raised by a mom who has her master's in political science and international relations, so it's like, and is a paralegal and has worked in law and is a school teacher. So it's like, as I was learning and experiencing these things of being in the, and from the communities that I'm from and that I've lived in, I was also getting the perspective of a scholar through it. Like when I would listen to Tupac is my biggest influence. I love Tupac. You heard Tupac in the set, I know, right? And that was my dad's thing, right? My dad loved Tupac, so I listened to Tupac as a kid. But as I'm listening to Tupac as a child, my mother is also asking me on the flip side, why is Tupac angry? And I'm like, he's angry at the government. And she was like, why is he angry at the government? Because the government doesn't treat people fairly and they don't do the right thing, like at like 7, like, so it's just always been part of who I am. So it's really easy to kind of like transpose that into my music and what I create, because it is so close to self. Like it's really close to just my existence. So
I appreciate you saying that, especially because I think that really gets at the how we value knowledge. Do we value knowledge that comes from the university more, or do we value it when it comes from the streets? But I love that you're saying that both are equally valuable, especially when it comes to creating. So that's really awesome. And now I'm going to ask my final question, and then if we still have some time, I'm going to forward some of the questions that our live audience is asking. And we have some great questions coming in, so I'm excited to get to them. But for my final question, what is the revolution about, and what does it mean, and how may we, the audience, become a part of the revolution?
I love that. So Revolution to me, I think it has a couple of parts. The first part is, and when you listen to the album Revolution, you'll hear the Gil Scott Heron tribute first, right, with that spoken word Revolution song. But then you'll hear a song that's called Cry No More, which I didn't perform tonight. And that song is a reflection of my life and being able to forgive myself for the mistakes that I made and the places that I've been that maybe I shouldn't, and the ways that I felt, and how I got myself there as a young person. And I think that the first step to being part of the revolution is self-love and self-healing, and being able to say, like, okay, like, this is what I've experienced, and this is who I was, and this is what I did. And I'm choosing to love all that good, all that bad, all that ugly, all that pretty. Like, I'm choosing to love all those, even the dirty parts of me. Like I'm choosing to love myself and to give to myself first, because when I can do that, I can then turn around and I can give all that I got inside of me back to my community. I can give that love. I can give that, appreciation. I can give that validation, those resources, the education, the knowledge, the inspiration. I can then turn and give that back to somebody else, because you have to make sure that you take care of self first before, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? So the revolution, really, the first part of it is the most silent revolution you can be part of, which is just forgiving yourself and loving yourself and accepting who you are. And then the next part is, giving that out, causing a ripple effect, being that change that you wish to see. And I know that sounds cliche, but it's real. Like if you see something that you don't like in your community or in the world around you, and I have students, like I teach my students this all the time, like they're graduating this year too. They're graduating high school. Y'all gonna get some of them at Boston College, so just know. But I teach my students that too, is like, go out and do the thing. Find the issue. Find the thing you're passionate about. Find the thing you care about. Find the thing you want to change, and take what's inside of you and what you have been given and do something about it. That's it. And that's how we can continue to create little revolutionary acts, big revolutionary acts, all of it. It all comes from love, and it all comes from inside of us. Revolutions are an act of love. It's a love for your people. It's a love for yourself. It's a love for your humanity. Like that's what it is. So that's what revolution means to me. And that's where that concept, really came from.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. Thank you for that. Especially when you're talking about love being an act, being a verb, and I mean, it's honestly it's really radical. It's not cliche at all to say that you have to really start with loving yourself. So I just love that so much. Thank you for elaborating on that. Thank you for sharing that with us. So we still got some time left, so I'm going to go ahead and forward some of the questions that our live audience is asking, because we do have some very dope questions. Um, I think you might have touched on this a little bit, but can you describe your songwriting process? Like, how does it just come for you? How do you just sit down and write those songs?
Um, there's a lot of different ways. And I love that question actually, because it just kind of shows like artists' minds are like insane. Like, you know how you ever see the meme where it's like a woman's mind is like a million tabs open on your laptop? Like that's my creative process. Like sometimes I have to listen to the instrumental, and I know this is gonna sound funny, but the instrumental will tell me what it wants me to write. Like I'll listen to it, I'll vibe out to it for a second, and then I'll be able to say like, oh, like this sounds like a love song, or like when I hear this, I see this type of scene. Let me write from the perspective of this character in that scene, right? Sometimes I need to wind down a lot to be able to write, because my life is just like up here. So I need to really be in like a headspace to do it. And actually, this album, Revolution, for the most part, was written in my vehicle, driving to school to teach my students. I live in the South Shore, and I actually teach in Brighton. So I believe I teach right around where y'all are. So I was, driving from like the South Shore area to Brighton up 24 every morning, and I had a lot of time to just be with myself. So I would cut on instrumentals, and I actually wrote the majority of these songs in my head, and then like put them down on paper afterwards. And then like Monster was completely written in my head. I don't think I wrote that down until I had to get it copyrighted. So it's always different. But I will say, like, when I write, it totally comes from a place of emotion. Like if I don't feel an emotion, I'm not a person who can just be like, oh, like I can give you bars, but it's not gonna like put a fire inside of you, right? Like I gotta be mad, happy, sad, angry, irritated. Like I gotta be something in order to, create what I really want to create.
Thank you for elaborating
That
on
was a
that.
great question.
Yeah, I love what you say about you just start off writing in your head. I mean that's That sounds like some legendary stuff there. I think that's what Jay Z does, stuff like that. So like, I love that. I love that. That's killing the game. Um, we're getting so
I
many
wish I could
questions in. I
freestyle.
got
That would
one.
make it even better.
I'm sorry. Say again.
I said I wish I could freestyle. That would make it even better. I'm not the best
Okay.
freestyler, but I write a song in my head, no problem.
Okay. I mean, that's what you're leading into your strengths, and that's what matters right there. I'm gonna pick. I gotta pick some questions now because we're getting so many coming in. Um,
Oh, that's so
I
cool.
think one of the best questions that I'm seeing right now is, and I think you touched on this a little bit when you introduced your first song, but which musicians are closest to your heart?
Oh, okay, that's a good one. So let me start by saying rest in peace, DMX, because I was beside myself when we lost him. Like, oh, DMX for sure. And I'm not even saying that just because it just happened. It's just fresh and raw in my mind right now. Um, but I always appreciated DMX's rawness and his ability to just speak his truth. And like I was just saying, right? Like the beautiful, the ugly, the memories, and he was not afraid to be vulnerable. And that was just so beautiful to me on so many levels. And he wasn't afraid to just be who he was. Like, what was you gonna tell him? Back at you. Like you couldn't tell him nothing. He was who he was and unapologetic for it. Like so, DMX for sure. Tupac is my favorite artist of all time. Like you can't tell me anything about Tupac. Tupac and DMX and Tupac and DMX were probably like the two artists who like growing up, whenever I was experiencing something or going through something, I would listen to their music. And whether it was like I was mad, so like I had to rap really hard at something and it made me feel better, like that was cool. Or when I just needed like, keep your head up, like just it's gonna be okay. Like all of those songs raised me. Um, and then of course, Queen Latifah is definitely close to my heart. People have been calling me Queen Latifah since I was a kid. And Lauryn Hill, Erica Badu. I think those are like my top like artists, like all around who like I love them. I love everything about them, everything that they do. Those are my ones. That's an awesome question.
I love that, and honestly, I can definitely see the influences there, and I love the way that you're melding in your different influences and your those people that you really hold close to your heart. I love the way that you meld that into your music because it just shows so well. So, especially that Queen Latifah influence, I see that for
Yeah.
sure. um, So another question that we got from our audience, and I think you already kind of touched on this a little bit, but we got someone who asked, "How long ago did you first decide that you wanted to pursue singing?" And P.S. Thank you for being here. I echo that. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. So I started rapping first. I started rapping at 7 years old. Basically, once I could like make sentences, I was turning them into rap songs. And that is definitely because my dad rapped. So I grew up with a dad who, did shows and like could freestyle for like ever. Like would just walk in the house and I'd be watching TV, like cartoons, like anything. And he'd just be freestyling, freestyling, freestyling. I'd be like, Dad, can you stop? And he's like, she said, Dad, tell me to stop, but I just keep going. Like, like just rapping all the time. So, in wanting to be like my dad in so many ways, one summer I was just like, I'm gonna do that too. I'm gonna rap too. Like I'm gonna write a rap right now. And it just kind of took off from there. But singing was a little different. Singing for me didn't come around until I was like 10. And I actually remember the moment. I was in the car with my mom and my cousin. I was in the back seat, and a Mary J. Blige song was on. I can't remember which one it was, but I'm like 10 years old in the backseat, just going off, like singing it. When you're in the backseat as a kid and you're like in the music video and you're like singing out the window, like I'm going at it, right? And we stopped at a stoplight or stop sign, and like my mom like whipped her head around and she was like, "You could sing?" I was like, I don't know. My cousin turned and looked at me over the seat, like, what's going on? Like, you could sing? And I was like, I don't know, can I? And the next thing I knew, I was in voice lessons. And it was just like, yo, well, yes, you can, and you're about to. Like, here we go. But singing was hard. I got told for a long time that I couldn't sing and that I wasn't good at it. And my voice is different, right? Like, I don't think I sound like everyone. And I got told for a long time that it just got made fun of for singing. I got told I wasn't good at singing, and I was just like, I'm gonna sing and I'm gonna rap, and you're not gonna tell me what I'm gonna do, and like, watch, I'm make you eat your words. And so now here I am singing and rapping for Boston College. So hey, keep it going, keep your dreams alive, people, keep your dreams alive.
I love that. I love that so much. And I mean, again, it's a pleasure to have you here because I mean, your voice is very unique, and I love that. And I think I can tell our audience loves it too. I think because we are coming near our regularly scheduled time, so I'm going to ask one more question from the audience, and then I think we'll go ahead and close out. So the
Oh,
final question I'm going to ask, and I think this is a really good one. What advice would you give to student activists operating within higher education to disrupt internal and external structures to advance and achieve social and racial justice?
beautiful question. Um, I would say there's a couple of pieces to that. So excuse me, because I'm gonna go for a minute because I got a couple of things to say to that. The first is come as your whole self, and that is difficult to do, right? I work right now in the nonprofit sector, and sometimes it's hard to come as your whole self, right? Like sometimes it's hard to just be unapologetically you in the spaces that you occupy until you get that comfortability where you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this, right? So I gave up code switching. I'm not doing that anymore. It's not happening. I'm gonna speak how I speak, and when I see my students speak how they speak, you are not gonna correct them. Ain't is in our vernacular. That's just what it is. Um, and also use your stuff. Use what it is that you do. So anything can be brought to the movement, and the movement exists as long as we exist, and the revolution exists as long as we exist. As long as there are people who in their spirit and in their mind and their soul and their heart know that something is wrong and they want to do something about it, it'll never die and it'll never end. And it's all about figuring out what is your vessel for change? What are you going to use to make the change happen? For me, it was not only music, but it was also being in the classroom. I started off teaching Black history in Brockton. That's what I was doing. I was teaching all different types of history, U.S. 1 and 2 world history. But when I took it on, I was like, well, can I teach Black history? Because that's what I want to teach. And they were like, yeah, okay, no problem. So I taught that too. And I taught not only through what they had given me for the other subjects, but I taught through the lens of Black history as well to educate, because that is a huge piece of the movement. Just teaching the people around you what you know and what they need to know about them, because it's not just freely given to them, is a like enormous piece, right? It's like it was the start for me. It was like, okay, like we're gonna teach first and then we're gonna do stuff. But bring your stuff, whatever it is that you do, and if you sing, bring your song. If you write poetry, bring your poetry. If you make videos, bring those skills. Make documentaries, make commercials, make PSAs. Link up with the people in your community who are doing the same thing, who want to get their message out, and visual art is what you do. Get that out there. That's your contribution. If you organize and you're well connected, bring the people to the place that the protest is happening. Like, bring your stuff. There's a place for everybody in this, because we're all given different gifts, and the point is to bring what you got to it. And that is enough. That's the other thing. Sometimes we can feel like it's not enough. I think all the time, like, okay, like I'm making this music, but is it enough? Like, what else can I do? And sometimes you have to realize, like, the fact that, If I make a song that somebody sitting at home listens to and says, you know what, I'm going to the next Black Lives Matter protest, like this made me feel something and I'm going to do something, then I did something. That's it. Do something. You just got to do something. I hope that is good advice. I hope y'all take that and you run with it, because that's the best advice I could possibly give.
I think that's amazing advice. I think that especially for grad students, a lot of us get so caught up in thinking about whether or not what we're going to put out is going to be good. Is it perfect? You know, especially because a lot of grad students, research shows this, grad students, we're one of the populations that are struggling the most with imposter syndrome, you know, with whether or not we're good enough or whether or not our work is good enough. So I think everything that you're saying right there just sounds so true. It's really speaking to my heart, and it really is inspiring. It's aspirational. And I just want to thank you again for sharing your knowledge like that. Because everything that you're saying is very critical, is very timely, and it is very relevant. So thank you again for gracing us with your presence. Thank you again for singing for us, for sharing your gifts. And I think our listeners, especially just looking through the chat, I can see that everybody is just really excited about this. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Yeah. I'm going to close this out. I want to thank everyone for coming to our first Acoustic Living Room series. Big shout out to our partner, BAMFest. Please make sure to follow them all on social media at BAMFest. Visit them at bamfest.org. And if you feel it in your heart, donate. Also, make sure to follow Jazzmyn Red across all social media at Jazzmyn Red, or visit her website at jazzmynred.com. And our next upcoming show is Friday, April 23rd with Cliff Notes. I encourage you to set your calendar reminder so that you do not forget to tune in next week. Have a good night, y'all.